Hello and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, I want to talk about some more of the non-work life kind of topics, because I feel like these things bleed over into the workplace more times than not. So the topic I want to tackle today is not a small one to tackle at all. Let's just be real. How do we cultivate healthy relationships, especially in the year ahead as we look forward? So my special guest today is somebody kind of unique in this regard. She is an actor, a director, a producer, and a writer, and her name is Brianne Davis. She joins us today, and you might recognize her face from series regular and the History Channel 6 and a role in the upcoming season of Netflix's Lucifer. Her first lead role came in 2005 with the blockbuster hit Jarhead opposite Jake Gyllenhaal. And she's also appeared on True Blood, NCIS Los Angeles, CSI Miami, and ABC's Desperate Housewives, amongst others. Brianne released her first book, Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict, a new novel based on a decade in recovery and a little bit of creative license. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Brianne Davis. Hey, Brianne.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so thrilled you're here, and I love speaking to fellow podcasters out there in the world because, like I said, this isn't a small topic to simplify. I don't think there's a 5 tips and a checklist, right, that we're going to be talking about today, right?
I wish it was that simple. No, it is not.
And, I was thinking about it, like I said earlier, we talk about all sorts of topics here at the podcast, and, most of them may be geared towards business strategy and cash flow forecasting and all the things. But the truth is, if your personal relationships and your personal life are a hot mess, guess what? It's going to bleed over into your work too, right?
100%. And I don't think people understand that. If you have toxic relationships in your life or unhealthy relationships, it's not just like your family or your partner. It literally bleeds in every relationship in your life.
Yeah. And so my hope is that when people are listening to you and I today, and I do really hope that we go deep, because I think that there's no way else to tackle such a big conversation, is that we start to see the patterns that may happen in our personal relationships, our family relationships, our romantic relationships, and see the patterns so that we can stop those negative, toxic relationships from happening in our employees, in our vendors and suppliers, and our prospective clients as well, right?
Correct. 100%. I completely agree. And I'm willing to go deep and dark with you today.
Yeah. Good. Well, I was thinking about it, maybe the best way to tackle this topic is to define what is not a healthy relationship first. What are the warning signs that you might be in an unhealthy relationship?
Well, the number one thing I tell my clients and people I work with, and then speaking at recovery centers and speaking all over the world about this, is that the number one thing is if there's anybody in your life that creates drama and brings out the worst in you, that's probably a toxic relationship. If you keep choosing unavailable people that can be your boss, that you want validation and attention from, that is a toxic, unhealthy relationship. If you take on other people's energies, if they're having a bad day, if something goes wrong, if you take that on, that's probably not a healthy relationship, because underneath it all, that means something is missing inside of you. And it is our responsibility to do that work so that we don't take it out into the world and desperately want other people to fill us and give us our self-worth.
And replicate it over and over and over again. Yeah. There's a statistic in business that 90% of small businesses in the U.S. fail within the first 5 years. And sure, a lot of that is probably poor money management under the basis of it, or just lack of management skills in general. But I think this stuff applies to it as well.
100%. Literally every business, if you think of, you deal with customers, you deal with people, you deal with humans that are flawed.
Right.
And we're flawed. So the number one thing, yes, money is an issue, but it is communication skills. It is having healthy boundaries. It is keeping ourselves in check so we don't reach outside of ourselves. and attack other people because they don't know how to show up.
And I definitely want to tackle and go into a deep dive of the how, like simple practical tips for people that are listening today that do earnestly want to cultivate and keep healthy relationships moving forward. But first, I want to know a little bit more about your story because, for one to say and come out, I'm a sex and love addict. My goodness, that is a big label to put on yourself. That must have been pretty scary when you first made the admission.
Yeah, I honestly, when it came out and I wrote this article for HuffPost,
Yes.
I never even actually thought it would be out there in the world. What happened is I got my 10 years of recovery in sex and love addiction, and I've been a working actress for 20 years, going on set with a lot of toxic people, a lot of sex and love addicts, and keeping boundaries. So I really worked hard over the years to every relationship in my life was healthy. My parents, coworkers, my husband, my friendships. So when I decided to break my anonymity, the reason I did it and I made that decision is because number one, a lot of young people are struggling with intimacy and connection and their sexuality. And we kept having younger and younger people come in and be struggling so bad and not knowing how to connect, hold jobs, show up for themselves, moving back in with their parents. And it was so sad for me that nobody's reaching out and saying, hey, like I understand toxic relationships, not knowing how to commit, be accountable, all those things that we don't do in relationships that bleed into our lives. I wanted to be of service, bigger than just my community. Yeah. So that's why I spoke out. That's why I wrote the HuffPost article. And by doing that, I then wrote the book to really help people like deep dive. What is sex and love addiction? It's not just about relationships. It's about your own self-love. So yeah, I never was going to come out. I've been a working actor for 20 years, like I said, but I just had this thing that was like bigger than me that I need to be of service, and especially as a woman, because the conversation is always about a man cheating on his wife, going to sex rehab. And it's like, it's so much bigger than that I was sick of that narrative of sex and love addictions. There's 30 million people in the United States that have sex and love addiction. 38% of those are women. And that statistic was in 2017. And I'm telling you, it's blown up since then.
That's incredible. I mean, and yes, you sort of hear the stereotypes of men who are addicted to porn and that's it. But I found I think learning more about your story, it really does stem deeply into intimacy and connection in relationships and what is healthy and what is unhealthy, what is toxic and what is not. And by the way, to everyone that's listening, everything that we talk about in today's conversation is all found at the show notes. So go over to the simplifierspodcast.com. There you'll find links to her Huffington Post article and any resources that we talk about today. So it's all there for you to find today. But looking back, I mean, at what point did you realize there was an addiction involved here? How early on?
Wow, that one took about 8 years of therapy,
thousands and thousands of dollars,
thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, of 12-step work to do that deep dive. But I was willing to do it. I was willing. What I say is walk through the fire and let it burn, let everything burn. Because what you have to do is dig through all your past and really look at when did this start? And it started so young. I came from a background where a happy marriage was not modeled for me. Healthy tools of communication, talking about money, having an equal partnership in a marriage was not modeled for me. Listen, my parents did the best they could, and I do not blame this on them, but this is the facts. I did not see a healthy marriage. So for me, when I saw commitment, it was like, ooh, I don't want that. So it was this fear of intimacy. And it started as young, as second grade, getting attention from boys, being boy crazy, wanting to not live in my reality, always live in fantasy, being a latchkey kid, seeing movies too young about romance, my parents using me to fill them and give their self-worth instead of their energy coming towards me. So I always felt like I was like trying to be there for other people and I had no sense of self. And when it really accelerated was when I first, had my first kiss and the intensity of that feeling. It's the same high as cocaine.
Yeah.
Those same endorphins are released. So the moment I felt power over another individual, that control, using my sexuality, I was like, this is the best drug in the world. I love the butterflies. I love falling in love. I love feeling power and control over the other people because I feel so not powerful, not in control myself because I was so empty. So then it just accelerated. I just, boy crazy, boyfriends, cheating, always flirting, always intriguing, going into the entertainment business, which is all about attention and validation. So I really hit my bottom 12 years ago when I was working on set, like somebody died. Honestly, somebody in my life passed away very suddenly. I was in a healthy relation, as healthy as I could be in one. And I found myself on location starting to flirt and intrigue again. And I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? I have someone I care about. I'm flirting with someone I don't even like or know. What am I doing? So it's that like dark night of the soul moment where you're like, I can't keep doing this. And then what I realized, the deeper work is I was wearing a mask on top of a mask on top of a mask, never fully connected to anybody because I was so afraid to be abandoned, fear of loneliness, fear of intimacy, fear of being loved because I didn't feel lovable. So I went out in the world just giving halves, bits and pieces of myself, compartmentalizing, being one person at work, another person at home. And it was exhausting, all the energy I wasted.
Yeah. And there's so much there that you said I really want to unpack. First off, if anyone has ever worked in the entertainment business for any length of time, you know what she's talking about there. There is so many layers to your identity and having to compartmentalize certain friends with certain work colleagues, with certain clients and da-da-da-da-da. And there's just a sense of I don't know how to say it, but did you experience kind of a superficial veneer on things and that, kind of when you peel back the onion in it, for me at least, having worked in entertainment for 20 years plus, is never enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not experienced enough.
Pretty
never
enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not, tall enough, short enough.
And so that insecurity that's deep rooted in there, and I dare say men experience it just as much as women, maybe
100%.
in a different way.
They're actually more insecure.
Yes.
They are. the men I work with, the actors, and they feel it just as much as us women.
Yeah. And they feel it maybe in different shades because, the power structure still kind of leans towards them. Let's be real. But I think that when you play in a bubble like that, it's hard to really know where you stand. And I could see, as you say, you find power in manipulation. And utilizing your feminine prowess or otherwise to control because there's so much that's out of control, right?
100% correct. And it's like you're always trying to give other people what you want. And it's all based usually on looks and yes, your performance and all that. But it's not based on this like amazing spiritual, rightness. It's based on this, like, what do you need from me? Who do I have to become? What do I have to do to get you to love me, to get you to hire me, to get the validation? And the unfortunate part is, yes, you can hit a high and a peak in your career. You can be on that billboard. You can be on that series, which I was, and then find out, wait, that doesn't complete me. That doesn't fill me. Yes, I love my job, but these people that I'm working with are not my family. That's because I realized every time I got a job, I wanted it to feel like a family unit. Like we were all in this together. And it's like, no, you go do your job. You're a worker among workers and you be professional and you don't try to get other people to fill you at your job. And then you go home and you be in your reality. Right. So it was like living in how do you live in fantasy and then go back to your reality in a healthy way?
Right. And I imagine being an actor as well. I mean, that's what your job is all about is, stepping into a fantastical role, playing a part. But then I also imagine, the ability of having any sort of job security is
Like pure torture. Pure torture.
Unless you're signed on a multi-series contract, right?
But you don't know when it's going to end.
Yes.
Every time any actor's on a series and they're a series regular, you sign your life away. You sign 6 years. Like I signed 6 years. We did 2 seasons. And they can fire you or cancel the show at any time.
Or kill you off.
Oh, yes. And that happened to me. Hello. But it's like, we have no job security.
Right.
And even when you're on a job, and that's what I really felt every time I was on a job, when I was shooting prom night, I was worried about the next job instead of being present with the job I was at.
Yeah.
So it's that insatiableness. And I feel like a lot of people, a lot of creative people, even a lot of people that own businesses, it's this insatiableness that you're always reaching outside of yourself to give yourself worth. And you can't do that or you'll be depleted.
Right. Well, and to relate that analogy to, say, a listener maybe is a wedding planner. I mean, you're always thinking about the next wedding, the next wedding, the next one. This one defines me. These photos are going to define our brand. What's next? What's next? What's next? And I find that, having worked in the events industry myself, if you are solely reliant on the happiness of your clients, then you will burn out. I mean, it's inevitable. It's inevitable, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, you will burn out if you are relying on anybody's energy to complete you or fill you or give you that validation. And that is why I spoke out, because it's a form of love addiction.
Right.
It's a form of love addiction to reach for your clients and thinking these photos are going to make your business blow up, or this person's going to then lead to this and then this. And it's just like just being okay exactly where you are and who you're with, and not giving out your energy or taking anybody else's to fill you.
And I imagine also, if you had come from the corporate world, let's say you had a good company culture where you were doing regular check-ins with your manager and you had annual reviews and they were always validating in you and pointing you in the right direction, developing your career. Let's say that was you and your magical scenario. And then you jumped off and you started your own business. Who's giving you that if you aren't doing it yourself to yourself, right?
Oh, yeah. But even if your boss is giving you all that validation, yes, it's lovely to hear. Yes, it's nice to hear you're doing a good job. Just like I hear the director say, that was a beautiful take. That scene you did, that was moving to me. We can't hang our hats on that.
That's right.
And that's what really hit me, because when you have all this success, where I made a career in this business that's very hard to make a career at, I can't hang my hat on the last job or the job in the future. I have to hang my hat on my own internal strength and self-love and owning my own voice and all those things.
So 12 years ago, rock bottom, you realize there is a problem here. And I imagine it was going into a dark place for you, right?
I mean, it was headed into a place where I was about to blow up my life. I was about to put myself in a dangerous situation that I had in the past. And I just could not go through that darkness again. I knew in the moment, it was a split moment. And I tell you this because it was such a beautiful, and I write about it in book 2. So I'm giving a little like foreshadowing, but like there was this moment where I was looking in the mirror I was staying in Kansas, Holiday Inn, looking in the mirror and going, oh my God, am I going to be doing this the rest of my life? Am I going to be on my deathbed at 80, never fully connected to another soul? And then this thought came in, am I going, and I know this is a little graphic, am I going to be raping people of their energy the rest of my life? And it was this, like, I saw my future. Yeah. And it's just like, I couldn't do it anymore. And that was the moment.
Yeah. This reminds me of a conversation I had a while back with author Laura McCowan. And she wrote a book called We Are the Luckiest, where it talked about her alcohol addiction and her road to recovery as well. And, one of the things that she said that I felt was very poignant is people want you to kind of tie it up with a pretty red bow. And it's like, oh, and this is what I learned. And this is how I magically turned my life around. And she relapsed quite a few times. She has a young child, and it was messy through the recovery process. It isn't pretty just like in the movies. What about you? How's your recovery process been?
Honestly, I'm so grateful. I hit my knees that day and I never looked back. I actually haven't slipped, which is, I'm not saying a pat on the back for me because it was just my willingness, my unwillingness to go backwards. But in sex and love addiction, it's the hardest one to get recovery from. A lot of chemical addictions are, not saying they're easier. Any addiction's not easy, but we have a lot of people with 30 years in AA, come in and say, I haven't wanted to come into this program because it deals with these core issues of relationships.
Yes.
And that intimacy and feeling loved and worthy. When you take away a chemical addiction, it's usually the parent codependency, love addiction is underneath. I mean, we had this man come in when I got my 6-month chip and he said, I can quit heroin, but I can't quit her. So God willing, listen, I could slip tomorrow. I go to more meetings today than I did 12 years ago. I go to 2 meetings a day, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. So that's 14 meetings a week. I used to go to 2 meetings a week. I work with sponsees. I have clients. I speak all over the world. So if I don't show up for myself, do my meditation, my gratitude list at night, getting on my knees, turning my life over to something bigger than me, taking my ego out of it, being of service with everything I do. Talking to you right now is just being of service. It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So if I don't do those things, I will blow up my life in a matter of weeks. I'm telling you, I know how strong this love addiction and sex and love addiction is because it is intoxicating because you go out into the world. Yeah, there's not a bottle of alcohol outside. Like there's people outside. I'm addicted to people. I sniff and drink people. Like that's my thing. So you have to interact with people. With alcohol, it's black and white. Don't pick up the bottle. Don't pick up the drugs. But with, money, sex and love, eating, you still have to interact with those things. So I hit my bottom. I went through a 9-month withdrawal. I cried every day for 9 months. I kid you not. I didn't work. I did not work for the first year of my recovery. That was so hard. I can't even tell you because I got so much validation from my work. Plus, that's how I make money. That's how I pay the bills. That's how I eat. I don't come from money. I don't have a trust fund. So, I had to make it. And so it was really hard that first year using my savings I had, crying every day, going to therapy, going to meetings, working the steps. And it was brutal. Some days I didn't think I was going to make it. I was crawling on the ground, hysterically crying. And then that withdrawal lifted. And then the real work starts, showing up every day, showing up for myself, looking at my character defects, looking at my resentments, making amends. It's just nonstop and it's every day now. And it's just, I'm so grateful. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. The hardest thing I have ever done, but it was the best thing I've ever done because I met myself. Took myself back. I took my inner child back. And I was even willing to give up my career. I said, God, if you don't want me to be an actor anymore, if it's because my therapist kept telling me, you picked the worst career for your addiction. It's like the worst. And I was like, I don't know what else to do. I don't have a degree. I don't know what to do. I don't have any other options. But I just got to a place, if I don't do this anymore, God, please bring me something else that I can do.
Well, and as you were saying earlier, it's not as if you can pull yourself away from people. I mean, you have to interact with people. It's human nature. We thrive in community, big and small. So it's not something that you can just sort of pull yourself away from and be like, well, I'm just going to have a desk job over here by myself and never talk to people ever again.
Go to the grocery store. Yes. You go to somebody at the grocery store. What if somebody cut you off? What if somebody reminds you of your mom? What if somebody
all the things
of your horrible boss? All the things. You interact with people every day. You take it out every day.
Yes. And you mentioned a couple of resources, and I want to make sure they're clear for people. So obviously there are things like AA and Al-Anon and all of that's out there for alcohol addiction. But what are the support groups for love and sex addicts?
Well, I'm a part of the 12-step program of Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous.
Okay.
love addict meetings and there are sex addict meetings. And the three of them are completely different. It really hits on using your sexuality to not feel your feelings, which that could look like, being in a marriage and using your sex to manipulate your partner. Like you can be a sex and love addict and never had a one-night stand. I have never. Not had many sexual partners. I have never. But I have manipulated other people with my sexuality.
Yes.
And the love addiction side is where we get codependent, where we go for unavailable people, meaning family members, friends, coworkers that you want to like fill you. So it's this love and sex addiction is a huge one. So I'm an advocate for it because it hits all relationships. Then another resource that I love is the 40 questionnaire of Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. You can type in 40 questions, go in the show notes, and it's these 40 questions. It breaks it down. And they say if you get more than 5 yeses, you might have a problem. So I would look at that. I also love the codependency book. Love addiction book is great. But yeah, those are the things that I have used. So I hope that helps somebody. Or you can read my book if you just want a fun book that, talks about sex and love addiction, but it's written like a movie or a TV series. So I wrote it like a novel where it's like really fun and you can feel for the main character, Roxanne, but you also are learning something. And I'm really proud of it.
And I think sometimes a novel is really nice as a palate cleanser because a lot of times, especially as entrepreneurs, we have all of this huge stack of professional development books on the side of our nightstand that aren't getting read, that sometimes it's nice to have a novel to enter into story and understand the basic premise and then start to take an examination onto your own life, look into the mirror of your own world and go, where are there similarities? Where are there places where I'm making poor choices? Because that's at the end of the day, what's really happening is whether you're conscious or unconscious of it, it's the making poor choices repeatedly that is doing damage to your life, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's
to
why
others.
I wrote it. Yeah, that's why I wrote it. I wrote it because every book I've ever read, even the books I named, they're so educational and they're so clinical and they're depressing. And you read a page and you're like, ugh, and you throw it against the wall. I mean, there's this one book I read and I could not get through a page of it without like, oh my God, it's too heady. I don't relate. I kind of recognize, or it's like, gives me the creeps. So I really wanted to write something where it was entertaining. It's like watching a Netflix show. And then you're like, wait a second. I used to do that. I go back to that unavailable boss that never responds to my emails, or I go back to that friend that ghosted me when I needed their help, or I go back to that guy that doesn't show up for me and is always unavailable. And I just wanted someone every single person can read it. I mean, my mom read it. And when you read my book, you will know that is an uncomfortable situation because it goes really dark and graphic because I wanted the audience to get in the mind of a sex and love addict that is trying to get recovery in her first year and the ups and downs of it. And my mom read it and first of all, she was crying and I was like, oh no, she's really upset because it goes back into childhood stuff. And she said, for the first time in 10 years, I actually understand your addiction. Yeah. And that meant so much to me. And then the beautiful thing she said next, and she goes, and the second thing is, I've done some of the same things. Yeah. And it was such a healing moment to write something where my own mother could go, oh, I get it. And I've done that.
And I think that so many of us drop those deep-rooted anchors down in our identity when we're very young, 6, 7, 8 years old. Like you said earlier, of just because that's how it was modeled. Either it was there or it was not there. And, you just grow up thinking, well, this is how husbands treat women and this is how women treat men and vice versa, both personally and professionally. And so when something doesn't stack up to your model, then you go, that's not right. That's not what I want, and you shoo away so many great relationships or friendships or clients that are perfect for you, but they just don't fit the model based on deep-rooted anchors, right?
Yeah, especially when you're addicted to the drama.
Yeah.
I mean, when you come from a background that has drama in it and intensity,
Yeah.
you get addicted to that high and you look at for it in relationships. And when it's a healthy, stable relationship, it doesn't feel right in your nervous system. So your body is almost recreating that trauma at the workplace. There's drama. Ooh, let's get gossipy. Let's talk about the clients with someone we shouldn't be doing. Let's bring it in our friendships.
Yes.
Let's create drama so we feel that worthiness of living.
Yeah.
And what is doing is getting back to where there's no drama. You shouldn't have drama. If anybody creates that in your life, please look at it, because that's the key stem. That if they bring out drama and bring out the worst of you, those are something to look at.
And, you just mentioned something that sparked a memory in my mind, is that earlier this year we spoke to Irene Lyon, and she is a central nervous system specialist. So she specifically works with clients who have, spoken and unspoken trauma in their life. And you're absolutely right. The body processes by saying, is this baseline or is this not? And so getting your central nervous system back into stabilization in order to handle stress situations, and equally to not respond with crisis kind of responses when things are actually okay. And that's, not perpetuating the drama, as you say earlier. Yeah, 100%. And what I think about with that in particular is, sometimes, especially if you are recovering from codependency, you may play yourself into a role of the fixer, the healer, the rescuer. And so then you keep attracting clients who are a hot mess or high drama, or boyfriends or otherwise, or coworkers for that matter, right? So,
and then they keep coming back in your life. So it's over and over again. Like, we are given the same experiences to not do the same pattern. I mean, I just had a client the other day who I was being a mirror for him and about the self-righteousness of the situation and how he was speaking to people in his life. And he did not want to see that. Yeah. And instead of looking at it and saying, where's this person helping me look at those holes that I'm blinded to? And instead of looking, he retaliated and didn't want to see it. And he lashed out.
Yeah.
He came at me and attacked. And I get it. It's the fight or flight. It's the not wanting to look and not wanting to confront. I get it. But I then have the choice. Do I want to still work with this person? Is that behavior tolerable? And for me, it wasn't, because it's not worth it to me. And it's okay to say, I don't want to deal with this behavior anymore, and I will not accept it. And you are allowed to move on to the next and make room in your life for people that are not in the drama and in their trauma. And the main thing I love to say, if it's hysterical, it's historical. Yeah. And if you have to defend it, then you're probably in the wrong somewhere.
Yes, 100%, 100,000%. Yes. Go back or listen to the last minute, and if you need that as a pep talk. And you've devised these 10 rules to live by. Can you give us a high-level overview of them? And maybe let's deep dive into one or two.
Yeah, I mean, they really hit, some of them are very similar to the 12-step. They're just in a different way. So it's like rule number 2, believe in your own form of God, not anyone else's. But one I really love is rule number 3, walk through the fire and let it burn. Let everything burn so you can heal, so you can go into yourself and see, where am I so empty and I'm going outside of myself? Because that's where you find your core strength in any situation. So that one I love. And I really love rule number 4. It's to heal and move forward. You have to look at the why. And rule 5 is one of my favorites. Adult up. Admit to your mistakes.
Yes.
And then I know there's so many, but number 6 is the hardest for me, and it's still the hardest. It's the compare and despair. Stop questioning your worth. And they just go on and on. But yeah.
Well, and I think that's it. It's step 1 in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Like when you acknowledge that there's a problem here, that's the very first step in any sort of change management, really. Acknowledge the situation for what it is. No judgment, no shame, no otherwise. Just acknowledge it. step 2 is, process the feelings and emotions and thoughts that are underneath it. Like start to peel back that onion and get to the core, as you're saying. And then, it sounds very simple, and it very rarely is, but step 3 is to think another thought, to choose another action, and you can't hop, skip, and jump over one to the other. You have to acknowledge, you have to do the work, and then you have to cognitively choose a different action. And
Yeah. And it's a whole process, and you have to give yourself the grace to go through that process.
Right.
And it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
When we heal, when we move forward, when there is change, it's not pretty, and that's okay. And I really tell my clients and people I work with, it's okay not to be okay right now.
Yeah.
And allow yourself that this is not forever. This is just a process.
Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful reminder, because I think we forget that it's like, oh, well, that's who I am. That's who my parents said I was when I was little.
I hate
it's a lie.
that saying more than anything.
Right? We can
It's
change
a cop-out. It's
at any point.
It's you owning your character defects when in honesty, you can change. People change. If anything, I have seen thousands and thousands and thousands of people completely change the way they are. They just were willing to do the hard work.
Yeah.
So many people don't want to do the hard work, just like they don't want to do the hard work in business, which like they don't want to do the hard work. They want the quick fix. They want the swipe left, swipe right, find the perfect person, the soulmate to complete me. And it's like, no. No one is going to complete you.
Right.
You are your own soulmate. You have to do the work.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's the great oxymoron, right? It's like, well, I'm a perfectionist and I like to get it right. So if I can't get it right, then I'm not going to do anything at all, right? And then you just sort of stay in the hamster wheel of busy and fill your life and your schedule and your mind with whatever. The only reason I can say this is I have done this
me too.
many years. And it's easy to hide behind busy, right? And not actually do the deep work that's at play. So talk to me about boundaries. Like, how in the world do we create better boundaries for ourselves in relationships, both personally and professionally?
It's the pause. It's you got to pause. So if situations arise with somebody in your life and the initial hit is ouch, or like something is done, you have to have the pause, because that might not be your true feeling. It might be a reaction to something historical, like I said. So always have the pause. The pause is where we find our gold. So it's the pause. And then you really think like, is this real? Did this really occur? Is this a fact? You run through those and look at them like, is this person attacking me? Am I being abused? And if you see like these questions, like, yes, that made me feel bad. Yes, this person attacked me. Then you have every right to set up a boundary with that person and say clearly, hey, when you said that to me, it really triggered me and hurt me. Can you please, moving forward, not do that again? And then if you cross someone else's boundary, be willing to hear it. Be willing to hear, you really hurt me. That's not okay. And then course correct and say, moving forward, I will not do that again. But there has to be no ego. You have to have humility. You have to be humble. And you know that people make mistakes and you make mistakes, and we're all flawed humans.
Yes, 100%. And if you guys want to hear more episodes specifically on the how-to with setting better boundaries, man, I've got some great episodes for you guys. Nancy Levin, Terry Cole, both ladies, incredible. And go back into the history and the archives of the Simplifiers podcast for that. Brianne, I just love hearing your story and, just your honesty as well. If you guys are curious about her book, I encourage you go out and check that out. Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict. And also to tune into your podcast, Secret Life Podcast. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Oh, my God. It's one of the best things I've ever done, too. I woke up during the pandemic after HuffPost was released.
Yes.
And it hit 2 million people in the first month. And I got a flood of, thank you so much. My mom was like that. My dad, my brother, me, blah, blah, blah. And I kept thinking, wow, this last bit of shame and stigma I didn't know I had was finally released. It was like I was a whole person because I had my community of sex and love addiction that I just worked with, my coworkers, my friends, people on set. But it was like I was finally a whole person and I had no stigma and shame anymore. And I just woke up one morning during the pandemic and I said, Secret Life Podcast. It was 3 a.m. Secret Life Podcast, giving other people a chance to let go of their last bit of shame or secret from the past or present. And I never wanted to do a podcast, wasn't interested in it, but I got a $40 mic. I asked a couple friends and I'm like, can I interview about a secret and we can change your name?
Yes.
And it just blew up. We're on our 75th episode. We have 100 in the can still. And most of them are anonymous from people all over the world. I changed their names. Some of them are celebrities sharing their secrets from the past or the present and how they've grown from it or how they're still walking through it. And it's just brought so much recovery for me and being of service and just connecting to one other person for the listener. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. And it's everything you can imagine. One of my first anonymous ones is a woman shot herself in the chest with a shotgun because she couldn't reach perfectionism. And her business was thriving and she could not reach perfectionism. So she went in her car and shot herself in the chest. And she walks me through that and why she did it and where she is now. And it's just beautiful stories like that from all these flawed humans all over the world that now we know we're not alone. If one person hears that and they can't reach perfectionism and they're having suicidal thoughts, you are not alone.
Yeah.
We all have these thoughts, no matter how wonderful it looks on the outside. So I'm really proud of Secret Life Podcast. It's blown up and I'm just so grateful to be of service to other people.
And so wherever you're listening to this podcast, you can find Secret Life Podcast there as well. Just do a search and you'll find it there. So, Brianne, as we wrap up, there's a few questions I ask everybody that comes on the podcast. And thank you again so much for sharing your story with us. So my first question is this. Tell us what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
Well, my favorite book that I always read all the time before bed, it's called Drop the Rock. And it's about letting go of your last character defects. And those defects like jealousy, envy, perfectionism, narcissism, egotism, all those things that us humans have, it's literally dropping them and finally surrendering. And it's just a book. Every time I pick it up and just read a page, it just takes me to the next level of serenity and peace.
Love it. Well, we will link that book up in the show notes for people if you guys want to check that out. So tell me, who is one person in your network, somebody that you know personally that you just feel is up to brilliant things? We could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
Oh my God. Okay. So that's hard because I have a lot of amazing people in my life that are doing badass things. But Kelly Stewart, you can look her up on Instagram. She's also an actress and been in, Hot Tub Time Machine and the Boys series and all that stuff. But she is just up to amazing things. She's brought out about fertility, with ethnicity, not helping women of color have fertility issues. And she's just, holding every Wednesday, she holds these Instagram lives where she talks about fertility issues and helping women with postpartum. And I'm just so proud of her. And she's such a great friend. So check her out.
I love it. We will link her in the show notes if people are curious about the work she's doing out in the world as well. So I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful that I'm a whole human being. Honestly, I'm grateful that I get to show up for my son as a healthy woman, not wanting my son to fill me or give me my self-worth. Yeah. Also having boundaries with my son. He's 3.5, and I can tell my son, Mama's doing her self-care right now. I'm on a meeting. I have to go to work for 20 minutes. And he gets it. And I am so proud that I did that and now can pass on healthy boundaries with my son where he's not reaching outside of himself and he's not waiting for someone to tell him he's good enough or give him the validation. So that's something I'm grateful for.
It's huge. It's a gift. It's an incredible gift. It's better than anything you could possibly give him for Christmas this year, is just that right there.
Totally.
So my final question for you today is this, Brianne. Someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and she is chuckling, but also maybe on the verge of tears, because everything we're talking about is a mirror back to her of her life, her relationships, and beyond. What's one thing you could whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her in this moment?
I would say it can be different. People feel stuck, and I felt stuck for so long that I didn't know what was wrong with me, why I couldn't hold healthy relationships, why I couldn't stay in jobs, why I created drama. And it can be different. You can change. You just have to be willing to walk through that fire and let it all burn, and be willing to give up things you think you can't survive without to get better. So I would say that's what I would say to her. It can be different.
Brianne, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.